Hello, Hillsborough. It's Grace. For my very first episode of the podcast, we're talking about all things budget. And I know that could be a little intimidating, but don't worry. We've got Tom with us from our budgeting team to really break down what it takes to manage a whole county's budget. And honestly, one thing I learned is not that different from running your own household budget. Tom tells us all the ways we prioritize things in the county, what that process looks like throughout the year, and more. So stick around and get ready because your budgeting skills are about to get a lot sharper. We'll see you there.
Hello, Hillsborough.
Grace, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wasn't sure if you were going to show up or not.
It was a close one there, but I made it.
I figured. Did you get an allowance when you were a kid? Like, did your parents give you money?
I think maybe I got $5 for doing the dishes, but that was about it. That was my main chore.
That's a lot of work just to get $5.
It's a lot of work, but I was ready to do the job. Did you have an allowance as a kid?
Yeah, I wasn't a lot, but I definitely had, a $10, a crisp $10 bill in my pockets.
$10, that's going a long way. What were you buying?
I went to the movies a lot.
That's you were going for more experiences rather than the material items.
Well, and we would have, every generation has that thing you have to buy. Like,
okay, what was your thing that you had to buy?
I remember this was the 90s, but they had these things called Pogs.
Pogs?
You've heard of Pogs?
I have never heard of a Pog.
Anyway, what was yours?
I was more of the Polly Pocket Webkins route.
Oh,
Did you hear about the Webkins craze of the 2000s? Oh, it was everything.
I've heard it was Shopkins. Is that the same thing?
No, I think that's different. But I think
how is that different?
I think it's different. That's a different thing. I think that was later. That was like recently.
But the important thing is when you wanted one, you had the money to go get one.
Yes, and I definitely had to save up. I had to patiently wait until I had enough dishwashing money to go get me a little Webkin stuffed animal.
Yeah, and it was always worth it.
Right? Oh, 100%. Were your Pogs always worth it?
No.
Okay.
But I'm sure they were to somebody. But our guest today does exactly that, but at a much larger scale. We're talking to Tom, who's the county's budget expert.
And hopefully Tom can give us some tips on how to use all of our dishwashing money on a larger scale.
That's true. And he's dealing with a much larger dishwasher. Yeah.
The stakes are a little higher than your Webkins or your Pogs.
Well, what do you say? Should we get him in here and learn some stuff?
I think so. Let's talk to Tom.
Hello, Hillsborough.
So Tom here is from our budget and management team. Tom, do you mind kind of going into like what you guys do and what your team does?
Sure. So I'm the county's chief financial administrator, and one of my responsibilities is the management and budget office. And so the management and budget office is responsible for, on an annual basis, creating and helping to assist the county administrator in developing a recommended budget that we send to the board. Once that budget goes to the Board of County Commissioners, and usually in July, the board will take that budget and then basically make it their own and adopt a final budget in September. And that budget will go into effect at the beginning of October each year.
What do you love about your job?
I guess the thing for me is when I first came to the county, I was in one department that had its own services. And I guess what I like about my job is that, then I moved into the budget office, and eventually now I'm actually supervising the budget office with some other department responsibilities. But I guess what I always liked about the budget office is an ability to take a look across the entire organization. So, and look at things more from a strategic standpoint and the services that we provide the residents of Hillsborough County. And being able to be kind of involved in helping develop a budget that actually supports all those services.
We say this a lot to our guests to like explain it like I'm in third grade, but for you, I might have to say explain it like I'm in first grade. We just talk about kind of the process about where the money comes from, where it comes in, and where it goes from there.
Sure. So I'll try to keep it simple. Now, the challenge with that is that Hillsborough County for this upcoming year has a $12 billion budget. So
okay, it's a little different than my personal budget, just a little.
So the money that supports that budget and the funding that comes to support that budget comes from a lot of different places. So one of the places that you hear about all the time are property taxes is one source. In addition to that, we also have and we provide water services to the residents in the unincorporated area of Hillsborough County. So we, each individual person that lives in an unincorporated county has, gets a water bill every month. Then we also are responsible for making sure everybody's garbage is picked up. So we have a solid waste department, and there's an annual assessment that actually goes on the property tax bill for that. And then there are a lot of other sources also, in addition to property taxes. We get some money from the state through sales taxes that are collected. And then also, through federal, state, and local grants that we might receive. And then for fees that we might charge for certain services. So for instance, if you go visit a park on a given day, I believe the fee to go into a park might be like $2 per car or something like that. Mm-hmm. So the money comes from a lot of different sources. I would say that, a big piece of that, the biggest pieces of that are probably property tax dollars that we collect from residents. And then also, again, the sales tax that is, that everybody pays on, services and goods that they purchase. It goes up first to the state, and the state sends it back down to us.
Okay. Just curious how you all monitor things. I feel like there would just be constant activity of money coming in and going out. How does your team keep track of everything?
Right. So what we do when we go through our annual budget process is our departments will each submit budget requests every year. And once we get to the point where a budget's adopted, those budgets, the individual departments are actually responsible for their own budgets. And then the budget office has some oversight. So we've got budget analysts that will actually help the departments on any budgetary issues they might have, help them to monitor their budgets. So it's kind of the responsibility to kind of monitor budgets and where we are is related to those. It falls back at the department level primarily.
Right.
I know when I'm making my own budget, just for I'm just a person making my own budget, I'm kind of breaking it up by like what I determine to be a priority. So, for me, it's like housing, gas, food, maybe a streaming service.
That's not a priority.
For me, maybe it is a priority. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. But so what like now, or I guess, would be our major priorities that you see? I know you mentioned public safety a little, but like what are our main priorities? What are your housing, gas, and food essentially?
Right. I think that's our public safety function. So the one that would include like our sheriff's office. That's a very large part of our budget. So the sheriff he's separately elected. So while he's separately elected, the county provides probably 99% of the sheriff's funding. So the sheriff will submit a budget request to us every year, and that'll be considered by the board and approved by the board. Other things that are probably that are priorities would be fire rescue. We want to, as the population grows, we need to continue to build fire stations and staff those fire stations. That's continues to be a challenge as we move forward. And then again, we hear about it all the time. One of my responsibilities is also the risk management area. And one of the big things are potholes or sidewalks.
Yeah. We hear about some potholes. Yeah.
Well, like I know in my neighborhood, around my neighborhood, there's this one location I go through all the time. And there was a pothole that continued to open up, and the county would come out and fix it. And then they would open up again, and they come out and fix it again. So when we talk about priorities and we talk about maintaining our assets, what eventually happened is that stretch of road ended up being repaved. And so while that pothole was continually opening up and we were spending all sorts of money with crews continuing to come back out to fill the pothole, eventually we were able to find funding to pave the road. Now that the road has been paved, the pothole's gone and it doesn't come back. So we're actually saving money by not having to continue to fill that pothole now.
Okay.
So that's like the Band-Aid. And we went ahead and got the surgery.
Right.
Correct. And that kind of goes back to maintaining our assets and why that's really important to us. So every year we look at, how many dollars can we put aside for road repaving and things like that. Yeah.
I was surprised to see that the sheriff comes out of our budget because, like you mentioned, that is a separately elected. It's not like fire rescue is a department under the county administrator. But I was just curious how that all works with where the rest of do they get funding from anywhere else, or is it all from?
Again, probably 98 to 99% of their funding comes from Hillsborough County. They do charge some fees for certain things. There might be some fines that they collect or things of that nature. But generally, almost all their funding comes from Hillsborough County, and that's just in state law. And so, one of the other things that's really big as far as a priority is obviously disasters. So we know with the hurricanes that come through, and just to give you an idea, like for instance, last year when we had Milton and Helene come through, one of the things that we try to do is we set funding aside every year for catastrophic events. And so that's a big thing that we make sure we've always got funds set aside for that. So, when Milton and Helene came through, as we know, there was all sorts of debris in the community that needed to be cleaned up very quickly. And so we really ran into a need there. We had to come up with about, $200 million of cash, like immediately, in order to pay, the trash haulers to come in and debris haulers to come in and take all that debris away. So that's another priority that we tend to focus on also.
So, and I'm knocking on wood with this, but if there is no disaster in a year, what happens to that set aside disaster fund?
Right. So those funds basically sit in like a savings account, like
Okay.
we call it a reserve, and it sits over there and is available if we need it. And so, if there's not any, once we get to a certain level and we're comfortable with that level, we won't have to fund it maybe in a given year or two. But then when there is an event and it goes down, then we have to, in the next budget cycle, look to kind of replenish that fund also.
Okay. So it's almost like when somebody tells you, okay, you're setting up your own budget, you have to set aside your emergency fund.
Correct.
And then once that's fully funded, then you can kind of go from there.
You can definitely draw the parallel there. So like you said, when you have your emergency funds over here, that's what we have. We have our emergency funds. And even in our day-to-day general funds, I mean, you want to make sure that your checking balance is not getting to the point where it's down to almost nothing, because then you don't have the ability, if something comes up, to fund that. So that's one of the things that, we make sure also is that in addition to the catastrophic emergency funds, we also have certain reserves and balances that allow us to be able to have flexibility if certain events do come up. One of the things by having those reserves that we're able to achieve is we've got what are called credit rating agencies that come in and periodically evaluate our financial situation. And when they do that, they assign basically a credit rating, just like your own personal credit rating. Everybody knows that they want to pay their bills on time and have a high credit rating. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing for Hillsborough County. So these credit rating agencies come in, and fortunately, we've been able to get to the point where we've had what was called a AAA bond rating. And what that really does for us is that when there are situations when we might want to go out, like, let's say, drawing a personal parallel, you want to go out and you want to buy a car. You go to the car dealership, you get financing either through them or somewhere else. And based on your credit rating, you might get it. You'll get an interest rate that's kind of commensurate with, your credit rating. Well, that's the same thing for Hillsborough County. So as we go out and there might be a situation where we want to borrow some funds for some things, that credit rating is important because, we have a AAA credit rating. So now we're able to borrow funds at the lowest possible rate. So there again, it makes us, more financially stable. It makes us more efficient when we're able to do that. And that would be another parallel to kind of the household budget.
What do they look at to make that rating? I mean, and I assume that's not a common, AAA is not a common rating. Like not every government has that, I would assume.
If you look across the nation, there are about little over 3,100 counties nationwide. Hillsborough County is about one of about 50 counties that has a AAA credit rating, general credit rating from each of the three different credit rating agencies. So we're about in the top 2%. Again, that's something that is, we take pride in and is very important to us.
And when we talk about our personal budgets and things, I know, the older I get, I definitely see the mental health benefits of making sure that, you can go to sleep at night knowing that if something happens, you'll be able to take care of it. And I feel like knowing that your government is doing the same thing is just as important.
Yeah. So. Not only do you have your own back, somebody else has your back too.
Yeah. Tom.
Yeah.
Tom over here has your back. That's right.
I really enjoy my job. There's something new every day when I come into the office that we're dealing with. They're always the issue of the day. So the general public sometimes doesn't know exactly what Hillsborough County does, but I think that generally they do see it every day.
Mm-hmm. Even if they don't know it, they still see it.
If they don't know it, they still see it. And that's what we kind of try to focus on.
Tom, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. I feel like this is a lot more clear than we thought it would be.
It is. And I think now I need to go look at my own budget and be like, okay, what can I do better?
I agree, but we're going to let him go because you bothered him enough about that.
I know. I'm like, I need budgeting advice.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
Yep. Thank you.
Hello, Hillsborough.
I don't know about you, Tyler, but I'm feeling really good about my budgeting skills now.
Are you? You look pretty confident.
Oh, yeah. I'm feeling real confident. I'm ready to go get some budgeting done.
Ready to empty some dishwashers?
I'm ready to empty dishwashers and go buy some, what did I say? Go buy some...
Labubu's?
Go buy some Labubu's.
All right. Okay, whose dishwasher are you going to empty first?
I'll start with mine, and then I can do yours if you'll pay me $5.
That's a good deal.
Great.
But it seems like Tom really likes his job.
Tom does really like his job, and I feel like it takes a certain set of skills to really know how to budget for a large group of people, and Tom's got it down.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think what he said at the end there rings true is like, you may not know what something costs or where the money comes from, but when you're driving on a repaved road or a repaired sidewalk or
Filling up your water bottle or even just going to the park and using a splash pad,
Yeah.
anything like that, it's all about the budget.
Yeah. Well, if you want to look into a little bit more about the things Tom was talking about and learn more about the county's budget, you can find that information at hcfl.gov/budget. And we'll have to have him back because I'm sure there's a lot that we didn't get into.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty. And I have more questions for him.
Yeah, you'll have time to study up. Well, since our show is called Hello Hillsborough, we don't say goodbye here. But what we do say is thank you so much for listening. However you spend your day, we really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Remember to click that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode.
And be sure to follow your favorite county on social media. We're at Hillsborough FL on all the platforms. And for more information on everything Hillsborough County, visit hcfl.gov.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Grace.
See you next time.